All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking this profound paradox of isolated success. And we're going to look at it through the intensely personal and, honestly, incredibly revealing story of a guy named Daniel Carter. It's the kind of journey that really forces us to look in the mirror at the very things we're all chasing, day in and day out, and ask ourselves, what might we actually be running away from in the process?
I want you to imagine standing in Daniel's shoes for just a second. You're in this sprawling, multi-million-dollar luxury penthouse, way up high above the city. The views, unbelievable. The furnishings, immaculate. And yet, the absolute loudest thing in the room is this deafening silence. It's a quiet, unexpected despair hanging out right there between the marble floors and the floor-to-ceiling windows. So take a beat and ask yourself, why does having absolutely everything sometimes feel like having nothing at all?
Section 1. The perfect illusion, a life everyone dreams of. To understand exactly how Daniel got to that quiet, empty room, we first got to look at the facade, right? The hard, quantifiable evidence of his massive success. We're talking about a literally massive penthouse in the sky. Private jets on standby, ready to take him anywhere on the globe in a heartbeat. A whole fleet of supercars sitting in a pristine garage that, honestly, rarely ever get driven. And right at the center of it all, this sprawling, dominant business empire worth billions of dollars. I mean, this is the picture of a life society tells us is the dream. It's a lifestyle magazine covers glorify, and the exact thing millions of people are grinding away trying to achieve.
But here is a hard truth we really need to sit with for a second. Dreams, once you actually realize them, don't always feel like happiness. Sometimes, they just feel heavy.
Which brings us to Section 2, the silent reality, the emptiness inside.
Because despite all that massive wealth, Daniel wakes up entirely alone. Think about this. There are 0 real conversations waiting for him. No morning calls from family just checking in, no buddies dropping by to grab a coffee. Instead, he wakes up to just a barrage of demanding alerts. We're talking endless emails, back-to-back meetings, a flood of notifications, and just crushing business pressure. His phone is ringing off the hook, constantly sure, but nobody is actually calling him. They're calling his status.
And this brings us to a really haunting moment. Daniel is sitting there all alone in his too quiet luxury living room. Way down below him, the city is just buzzing with life, right? People are laughing, music's playing from the streets, human connection is happening literally everywhere. And sitting way up above it all, he whispers to himself, I have everything. So why do I feel empty? It is a massive disconnect between his external reality and what's actually going on inside.
Looking back at his life, Daniel remembers the old days, living in a tiny apartment, eating simple meals, scraping by with very limited money, but having these massive dreams. He used to think, if I become rich, everything will be perfect. But the reality? Billions of dollars and total luxury just handed him total isolation. It's like money absolutely solved his logistical problems, no question, but it completely failed to solve his loneliness.
And this isolation? It was actually amplified by the fact that he wasn't physically alone. He was surrounded by people constantly, but they were what we'd define as fake connections. Everyone he meets, his business partners, investors, high-profile guests, they're all connected to his wealth, not to Daniel, the actual person. Every single smile he gets feels purely transactional. Every conversation feels temporary, like it's totally conditional on him just staying successful.
Okay, Section 3, the wake-up call, an unexpected meeting. Right when Daniel hits rock bottom in terms of isolation, enter Ryan. Ryan is an old-school friend of Daniel's. Now, Ryan isn't rich, he isn't famous, he definitely doesn't have a private jet or a penthouse. But what he does have is this grounded, super genuine presence. When Ryan laughs, it echoes through that giant penthouse, and for the first time in years, the sound actually feels real. Ryan is basically the perfect foil to Daniel's completely artificial world.
So Ryan is looking around this massive, immaculate space, and he doesn't even seem impressed. Instead, he just looks at his old friend and delivers this absolute gut punch of a truth. He says, "You live in a palace, but it feels like a cage." And Daniel doesn't even try to argue. He can't, because the truth of those words is just absolutely undeniable.
But Ryan doesn't just drop that line and leave it there. He actually takes Daniel outside. He insists they leave the bodyguards and the heavy security detail behind, and they just walk down to the normal, everyday streets. And what Daniel sees down there kind of shakes him. He sees small food stalls, he sees families sitting together sharing a meal, actually talking to each other. He sees kids just playing freely. Ryan points to the whole scene and reminds him, hey, this is actual life, not those numbers ticking up in a bank account. Later that night, back up in his penthouse, Daniel literally cannot sleep. The contrast between what he just saw down on the street and what he built up in the sky is just way too stark. And it leads him to this massive, pivotal realization. Did I build a life or just a system of isolation? He realizes that his relentless pursuit of massive success gave him absolutely everything he ever wanted, except the one thing he actually needed: human connection. Moving on to Section 4, the real wealth, the struggle for balance. So the real catalyst for Daniel turning things around comes from another powerful emotional truth bomb from Ryan. He tells him, you didn't lose people, you replaced them with work. Wow. I mean, that reframe is devastating, but it's absolutely essential. It forces Daniel to finally take accountability. It completely shifts how he views all his past choices. His loneliness wasn't some weird accident. It was the literal price he actively chose to pay for his empire. So Daniel rolls up his sleeves and starts doing the difficult work. Step 1, he awkwardly calls up old friends. Step 2, he actually forces himself to reduce his work hours, taking a deliberate step back from the empire. Step 3, he starts spending real time outside of his luxury bubble. And step 4, he practices meeting people without any sort of business agenda attached. Now, at first, this all feels incredibly mechanical and weird to him. He had quite literally forgotten how to just live simply.
Now, the reality of this transition, it is a ridiculously tough balancing act. On one side, he's trying to keep his massive business running while actually nurturing real relationships. On the other side, he's trying to maintain his success while finally keeping his peace of mind. It's an intense struggle because, as the source material points out, while money is demanding, life and relationships are way more demanding. They require your time, your vulnerability, and your real presence. And those are things you just cannot buy or delegate to an assistant.
But eventually, the struggle pays off. Daniel has this beautiful emotional breakthrough. He finds himself just sitting around with a small group of actual real friends. No business talk, no networking, no hidden agendas whatsoever, just genuine laughter and peace. For the first time in years, you can see the tension just drop from his shoulders, and he feels an authentic happiness that is completely untethered from his luxury, his status, or his bank account. Later on, when he goes back up to his penthouse alone, the experience is entirely different. That deafening silence, it's gone. Looking out over the sprawling city lights, the emptiness has finally been replaced by this profound understanding. He just smiles and says to himself, I thought I needed more money, but I needed more people. When we distill Daniel's whole journey down, it gives us these incredibly clear core lessons about the true meaning of wealth. Money is a fantastic tool, right? It absolutely builds comfort, security, and freedom, but it cannot build connection. True, lasting happiness is rooted deeply in our relationships. Success, no matter how huge, feels totally hollow if there's no one at the top of the mountain to share it with. At the end of the day, real wealth is, and honestly always has been, emotional connection. It really all comes down to this one fundamental shift. The richest person is not the one who owns everything, but the one who is not alone in everything. It's just a profound shift in how we measure what makes a successful life. And that leaves us with a mirror to hold up to our own lives. As you look at your own daily routines, your own ambitions, and your calendar for the week, what are you replacing with work? And moving forward, what is your true definition of wealth going to be? Take a moment to really think about that. I'll catch you in the next